The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber groaned open with a sound like dying stars. Ambassador Robert Hayes stepped through the threshold and felt his breath catch in his throat. The chamber stretched before him like a vast cathedral built for gods, its crystalline walls rising into darkness so complete it seemed to swallow light itself. Tier upon tier of alien forms stretched upward in concentric circles, creating an amphitheater of judgment that dwarfed anything humanity had ever imagined. Hayes had prepared for this moment for 3 years. He had studied every known alien species, memorized their customs, learned their languages, but nothing had prepared him for the sheer overwhelming presence of the Galactic Council in session. Hundreds of representatives from across the galaxy watched him with eyes, sensors, and perception organs that evolved on worlds he could barely imagine. The air itself hummed with power. Translation fields crackled with the simultaneous conversations of species that communicated through everything from sound waves to quantum fluctuations. The smell was indescribable, a mixture of atmospheres from dozens of different worlds, filtered and processed but still alien enough to make his human nose twitch with uncertainty. At the apex of the chamber, Chancellor Vorak sat upon a throne carved from a single crystal that pulsed with internal light. The Chancellor's species, the Corvani, resembled nothing so much as living shadows given form and purpose. Around him, the inner circle held representatives from the 7 founding species of the Council. Each one commanded fleets that could reduce Earth to cosmic dust without effort. Human. Chancellor Vorak's voice echoed through the chamber without the need for amplification. You stand before the assembled representatives of 3,000 civilized worlds. Your species has requested admission to the galactic community. We have reviewed your application. Hayes straightened his shoulders and walked to the center of the chamber, where a single circle of light marked the speaking position. His footsteps echoed in the vast space, each sound swallowed by the darkness above. He could feel the weight of alien attention pressing down on him like a physical force. Honorable Chancellor, esteemed representatives, Hayes began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. Humanity is honored to appear before this august body. A sound like grinding metal came from the 5th tier. Hayes recognized it as laughter from the Mechanist Collective. Their representative, a towering construct of living metal and circuits, leaned forward with obvious amusement. Honored? The Mechanist's synthesized voice carried overtones of derision. Your species should be grateful we are even considering your primitive civilization for membership. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Hayes had expected this. Humanity was young by galactic standards. Their fastest ships couldn't even break the light barrier. Their weapons were chemical explosives and directed energy, toys compared to the reality-warping technologies wielded by Council species. Indeed, came another voice from the 2nd tier. This was Hive Mother Zana, whose insectoid species controlled 12 star systems through biological supremacy. The human application lists impressive achievements for such a young species, but we question whether they possess the maturity for galactic citizenship. Chancellor Vorak raised one shadowy appendage for silence. The concerns are noted. However, there are aspects of the human application that require clarification. His faceless head turned toward Hayes. Your species claims to have achieved spaceflight only 6 decades ago, yet your colonization records show settlements on 17 worlds. Explain this discrepancy. Hayes smiled. It was the expression that several alien species found disturbing, baring teeth in what their instincts interpreted as threat displays. But Hayes wasn't threatening. He was anticipating. Chancellor, humanity has indeed achieved faster than light travel only recently. Our colonies were established through generation ships, vessels that traveled between stars over periods of centuries. The chamber fell silent. Several representatives exchanged what Hayes had learned to recognize as expressions of disbelief among their species. Impossible, the ethereal conclave's representative shimmered, its gaseous form flickering with patterns that indicated confusion. No species undertakes interstellar colonization without faster-than-light capability. The resource investment alone would destabilize any planetary economy. And yet, Hayes continued, humanity not only undertook such missions but succeeded with them. 17 colonies, each one representing a multi-generational commitment to expansion and exploration. We launched ships knowing that the crews would live and die in space, that their children and grandchildren would continue the mission, that only their great-grandchildren would see new worlds. The silence deepened. Hayes could see calculations flickering behind alien eyes. What kind of species committed resources to projects that would take centuries to complete? What kind of civilization convinced people to sacrifice their entire lives for goals they would never see achieved? Fascinating. Chancellor Vorak's voice carried new undertones. And what of your military capabilities? The galaxy is not always peaceful. Hayes had been waiting for this question. Humanity's military doctrine is based on the principle that war is a failure of diplomacy. But when diplomacy fails, war must be conducted with absolute efficiency. Elaborate. We call it the doctrine of overwhelming response. When threatened, humanity doesn't seek to merely defeat an enemy. We seek to ensure that enemy can never threaten us again. Our wars end when our enemies lose the capacity to wage war. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. The concept of total war was not unknown in the galaxy, but few species spoke of it so matter-of-factly. Concerning, Hive Mother Zana clicked her mandibles. Your species sounds dangerously aggressive. With respect, Hive Mother, humanity hasn't waged an interplanetary war in over a century. We ended warfare on our own world, through the simple expedient of making it too costly to continue. Our military exists to ensure that we never need to use it. Chancellor Vorak leaned forward, his shadow form seeming to grow larger. And if the Council were to deny your application for membership? Hayes looked up at the vast assembly of alien representatives, each one representing civilizations that had ruled the stars when humanity was still discovering fire. When he spoke, his voice carried the quiet confidence of someone stating an inevitable fact. Then humanity would respect the Council's decision and return to our corner of the galaxy to continue our development. We would focus our efforts on advancing our technology, expanding our colonies, and preparing for the day when we might again petition for membership. And how long would such preparation take? The Mechanist Collective inquired. Hayes smiled again, and this time several representatives recognized the expression for what it truly was. Not aggression, but anticipation. A species that commits centuries to interstellar colonization, that ends planetary warfare through strategic thinking, rather than conquest, that develops faster than light travel in 6 decades. Hayes paused, letting his words sink in. Honored Council, if you force humanity to prepare in isolation, I estimate we would be ready to reapply for membership in approximately 18 months. The chamber erupted in what could charitably be called discussion. Alien voices, harmonics, and quantum fluctuations filled the air as representatives debated furiously. Hayes stood calmly in his circle of light, watching 3,000 civilizations argue about the implications of his words. Finally, Chancellor Vorak called for order. The Council will deliberate. Human, you will await our decision. As Hayes walked toward the exit, he could feel the weight of galactic attention still pressing against his back. Behind him, the most powerful governing body in the galaxy began the process that would either welcome humanity as a junior member or condemn them to isolation. What none of them realized was that Hayes had just given them the most important piece of information in galactic history, the exact timeline for humanity's transformation from supplicant to storm. The galaxy had 18 months to decide whether they wanted humanity as allies or enemies. Hayes rather suspected they would choose poorly. 18 months after the Galactic Council's rejection, Admiral Lisa Park stood in the command center of Prometheus Station, hidden deep within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The holographic display surrounding her showed a transformation that would have seemed impossible to the alien representatives who had dismissed humanity as primitive. Where once empty space had existed between the worlds of the solar system, now a network of installations hummed with activity that defied galactic understanding. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Jack Torres from his position at the tactical station, we're receiving final confirmation signals from all embedded assets. Ghost protocol is complete across 47 systems. Park nodded grimly. The Council had made their decision 18 months ago, declaring humanity too immature for galactic citizenship and imposing a quarantine around Earth's solar system. They believed they had contained a potential threat. They had no idea they had given humanity the greatest gift possible: time, privacy, and motivation. Status on the deep infiltration network? Park asked. All 82 assets remain undetected and in position, Torres replied, his fingers dancing over holographic controls that would have seemed like magic to any Galactic Council observer. We have eyes and ears in every major power center, including the council chamber itself. The main display shifted to show a three-dimensional map of known space, dotted with pulsing points of light. Each light represented a human being who had volunteered for the most dangerous assignment in their species' history. These weren't traditional spies. They were volunteers who had undergone genetic and cybernetic modifications that allowed them to pass as members of other species entirely. The process had been brutal. Complete genetic reconstruction, personality overlays to match alien behavioral patterns, technological implants that rewrote their basic biology. Each volunteer had effectively died as a human and been reborn as something else, retaining only their core mission parameters and absolute loyalty to Earth. "Show me the Corvani infiltration," Park ordered. A new display materialized, showing security footage from the Council's inner chambers. A figure that appeared to be a junior Corvani administrator moved through restricted areas with casual confidence. According to genetic scanners, biological sensors, and psionic detection systems, the being was exactly what it appeared to be. In reality, Dr. Amanda Foster had spent 6 months learning to exist as a living shadow before taking her position in the Chancellor's personal staff. "The beauty of the operation," Torres explained, "is that we're not stealing information. We're integrated into their system so completely that we are the information. Every decision they make, every strategic plan they develop, every weakness they reveal, we know about it before their own allies do." Park studied the tactical displays with satisfaction. 18 months ago, humanity had been a single species confined to one star system, begging for acceptance from their galactic superiors. Today, they possessed the most comprehensive intelligence network in galactic history and technology that made their former limitations irrelevant. "Status on the Prometheus installations?" she asked. "All 12 stations report full operational capacity," Torres replied. "Combined manufacturing output now exceeds the industrial capacity of any 3 council species combined. Research and development programs are running 6 months ahead of schedule." The display shifted to show cutaway views of the hidden installations. Each station was a marvel of compressed engineering, vast manufacturing complexes, research laboratories, and military facilities hidden within asteroids, moons, and empty space. To external observers, they appeared to be standard mining operations or scientific outposts. In reality, they represented humanity's complete transformation from planetary to stellar civilization. "The quantum manipulation facilities are particularly impressive," Torres continued. "We can now fold space itself, manipulate matter at the subatomic level, and generate energy directly from stellar radiation. The Council's technology suddenly seems rather primitive by comparison." Park allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. The aliens had expected humanity to spend their isolation sulking and growing weaker. Instead, humans had done what they always did when faced with impossible challenges. They had innovated their way through them. "Admiral," Torres's voice carried new excitement, "we're receiving reports from the surveillance network. The Council fleet is mobilizing." Park's expression hardened. "Show me." The display revealed what their intelligence assets had been warning about for weeks. 800 ships from 15 different species were gathering in the Centauri system, the largest military force in galactic history. Their mission was simple: demonstrate to humanity the consequences of defying Council authority by destroying one of the outer colonies. "Target selection?" Park asked. "Europa Station. 70,000 civilians, mostly researchers and their families." Park studied the tactical display showing the approaching fleet. Each ship represented centuries of alien technological development: energy shields that could deflect stellar radiation, weapons that could crack planets, faster-than-light drives that made interstellar warfare possible. By any conventional measure, humanity was about to face annihilation. "Recommendations from the tactical analysis team?" Park inquired. "They suggest we demonstrate our new capabilities," Torres replied. "Full defensive deployment around Europa Station, followed by neutralization of the attacking fleet." "No," Park said quietly. "That's not how humanity wins wars." Torres looked up from his station, confusion evident in his expression. "Admiral?" Park walked to the primary display, studying the approaching alien armada. "The Council isn't just attacking us, Lieutenant Commander. They're sending a message to every species in the galaxy. They want to demonstrate what happens to civilizations that challenge their authority. Yes, ma'am. Then we give them exactly the demonstration they want, Park continued. But not the one they expect. She turned to face the tactical station. How many observer ships are accompanying the attack fleet? Torres checked his readings. 53 vessels from 28 different species. They're there to witness and record the destruction for transmission across the galaxy. Perfect. They'll get their recording. Park's expression became predatory, but instead of watching humanity's destruction, they're going to witness the moment the balance of galactic power shifted forever. Orders, Admiral. Park looked at the display showing thousands of human installations hidden throughout the solar system. Each one represented 18 months of focused human innovation, compressed development that had advanced their civilization by centuries in mere months. The aliens had given humanity time to prepare. Now they would learn the cost of that gift. Alert all Prometheus stations. Begin final preparations for Operation Stormfront. Stormfront? Torres asked. The Galactic Council believes they understand warfare, Park explained. They think in terms of fleets and planets, conquest and defense. They're about to learn that humanity thinks in terms of systems and paradigms. The displays around them began showing activation sequences across the solar system. Hidden installations came online, quantum manipulation fields activated, and manufacturing complexes that had been building in secret for 18 months revealed their true purpose. What are we building, Admiral? Torres asked. Park smiled, and it was the expression of someone who had spent 18 months planning for this exact moment. We're not building anything, Lieutenant Commander. We're demonstrating something, which is that there's a difference between being attacked by a superior force and being attacked by a species that has spent 18 months learning how to remake the laws of physics. The countdown displays around the command center showed 36 hours until the Council fleet reached Earth's solar system. 36 hours until the galaxy learned that isolation hadn't weakened humanity. It had given them room to evolve beyond anyone's comprehension. Send a message to all embedded assets, Park ordered. Inform them that the demonstration is about to begin. And Lieutenant Commander? Yes, Admiral? Make sure our people in the Council chamber have a good view. I want Chancellor Vorak to see this firsthand. As the final preparations began, Park reflected on the irony of the situation. The Galactic Council had isolated humanity to teach them their place in the galactic order. Instead, they had taught humanity something far more valuable, that true power didn't come from joining existing structures. True power came from making those structures irrelevant. Fleet Commander Drakvor of the Corvani Imperial Navy had destroyed 12 rebellious worlds and crushed 15 different resistance movements during his 3-century career. His flagship, the Void Render, was a monument to military engineering. 4 kilometers of armor, shields, and weapons that had never tasted defeat. As he watched the primitive human research station through his tactical displays, he felt something approaching boredom. This hardly seems worthy of our assembled might, he rumbled to his aide, a nervous Centauri diplomat named Jax II. 800 ships to eliminate a single research facility? The Council grows paranoid. Around them, the combined might of 15 species hung in formation beyond Europa's orbit. The display showed feeds from observer ships representing dozens of other civilizations, all gathered to witness the consequences of defying galactic law. It was to be a demonstration that would echo across the galaxy for generations. Sir, reported his weapons officer, we have target lock on the human installation. All fleet elements report ready for bombardment. Drakvor studied the tactical display with professional interest. Europa Station appeared exactly as intelligence had described, a standard research facility with basic defensive systems. The manufacturing domes were clearly visible on the moon's surface, along with defensive platforms that human records showed were barely capable of stopping asteroids, much less military assault. Something feels wrong about this, Jax II muttered, studying his sensor readings. The humans have made no attempt to evacuate. No emergency broadcasts, no ships fleeing the system. They're just waiting. Because they understand resistance is futile, Drakvor replied. Begin the demonstration. All ships focus fire on the primary research complex. Make it visible to the observers. 800 ships opened fire simultaneously. The combined energy output was sufficient to vaporize a small planet, let alone destroy a single research station. Quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, gravity bombs, and disruptor beams all converged on Europa Station in a display of destructive power that the observer ships dutifully recorded for transmission across the galaxy. The weapons struck Europa's surface and simply stopped. What? Drakvor leaned forward, his shadow form contorting with confusion. Damage assessment. Sir, his weapons officer's voice carried undertones of disbelief. Sensors indicate no damage to the target. Energy readings are impossible. Our weapons appear to be absorbed. On the main display, Europa Station remained unchanged. The massive bombardment that should have reduced the installation to vapor had created nothing more than a faint shimmer around the facility, like heat distortion rising from summer pavement. Impossible, Drakvor snarled. No shield technology can absorb that level of... Fleet Commander, his communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human facility. It's being broadcast to all ships in the fleet. Put it through. The image that appeared on the main screen showed a human female in simple blue coveralls, standing in what appeared to be Europa Station's command center. Behind her, holographic displays showed the exact positions of every ship in the attacking fleet. She was smiling. Greetings, Fleet Commander Drakvor, she said, and several officers gasped that she knew his name and rank. I'm Director Maria Santos of Europa Station. Thank you for that impressive demonstration. It was exactly what we needed to calibrate our new systems, Drakvor found his voice. Your shields cannot possibly absorb that level of energy output. You're absolutely correct, Santos interrupted cheerfully. Shield technology can't handle that kind of power. But we're not using shields. We're using something much more efficient. Technical readouts began appearing on the displays behind her. Drakvor's science officer was already frantically analyzing them. Sir, the science officer reported, according to these readings, they're not blocking our weapons. They're redirecting them. The entire moon appears to be functioning as a quantum energy distribution matrix. Santos nodded approvingly. Very good. Every joule of energy you just fired at us has been collected, refined, and stored. Our power reserves thank you for the generous donation. Impossible, Jax-2 whispered. The technology required for planetary-scale energy manipulation is theoretical at best. Oh, we've moved well beyond theory, Santos replied, as if she could hear him. Would you like to see what 18 months of focused human development can accomplish? Computer, illuminate the network. Across the solar system, installations that had been invisible moments before suddenly blazed with energy signatures that made every sensor in the fleet scream warnings. Hidden facilities on asteroids, moons, and in deep space revealed themselves like stars being born. The tactical displays showed 12 major installations, each one generating power readings that dwarfed most planetary energy grids. Each facility, Santos explained conversationally, has spent the last 18 months converting raw matter into useful technology. We've been quite productive during our isolation. All ships, Drakvor roared, target those installations. Maximum firepower. I wouldn't recommend that, Santos said calmly. You see, the first rule of human warfare is that we never fight the battle our enemies expect us to fight. The space around the galactic fleet suddenly filled with objects that materialized as if from nowhere. They were small, roughly fighter-sized, but there were thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They appeared in perfect formation surrounding the entire fleet in a sphere of unknown technology. Sir, Drakvor's tactical officer reported in a shaking voice. Sensors indicate 63,000 unknown contacts. They just appeared. No approach vectors detected. That's because they weren't approaching, Santos explained. They were already here, cloaked, waiting, positioned exactly where we needed them while you arranged your ships in the perfect formation for our purposes. Jax-2 stared at his readings in horror. The power signatures. Each of those small craft shows energy output equivalent to a heavy battlecruiser. Close, Santos acknowledged. Each of these represents approximately 18 months of compressed human innovation. We call them Storm-class interceptors. Each one carries enough firepower to disable a ship of your flagship's class. She paused, her expression becoming serious. Would you like a demonstration? One of the small craft fired a single pulse of brilliant energy. It struck the heavy cruiser Stellar Dominance, a Hive Queen vessel with armor rated to withstand direct impact from stellar flares. The ship didn't explode or break apart. It simply ceased to exist, leaving behind empty space where moments before there had been 3 kilometers of advanced military engineering. The silence on every bridge in the fleet was absolute. The second rule of human warfare, Santos continued, her voice now carrying to every ship through quantum communication systems that bypassed their security entirely, is that we don't fight to win. We fight to ensure our enemies never threaten us again. What do you want? Drakfor whispered. Santos's expression became deadly serious. We want to send a message to the Galactic Council. You declared war on humanity through the act of isolation. You believed you were removing a threat. She paused, and when she spoke again, her words carried the weight of absolute certainty. You were correct about the threat assessment. You were simply wrong about the removal part. Humanity formally accepts your declaration of war. We'll be in touch to discuss terms. The transmission ended, leaving 800 of the galaxy's most advanced warships surrounded by an enemy that operated beyond their understanding of physics. In the silence that followed, Fleet Commander Drakfor realized that the demonstration the Council had ordered was indeed taking place. But they weren't demonstrating their power to humanity. Humanity was demonstrating their evolution to the galaxy. Sir, his communications officer called out, the human craft are transmitting new instructions to our navigation systems. What kind of instructions? Coordinates, sir. They're escort coordinates. They want us to follow them to a position outside the solar system. Drakfor looked at the tactical display showing 63,000 human craft maintaining perfect formation around his fleet, each one capable of erasing his ships from existence with casual efficiency. Comply with their instructions, he ordered quietly. As the greatest military force in galactic history began following the directions of a species they had come to punish, Drakfor understood that the galaxy had just witnessed the birth of something unprecedented. Humanity hadn't just defended themselves. They had announced their graduation from galactic supplicant to galactic superpower. And they had done it in a way that ensured every species in known space would receive the message clearly. The storm had been unleashed, and it would reshape everything. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in their most secure chamber, buried in the heart of their ancient station orbiting the dead star Nexus Prime. Chancellor Vorak's shadow form writhed with agitation as reports flooded in from across known space. In the 72 hours since what historians would later call the Europa demonstration, the galaxy had descended into carefully controlled panic. Report, Vorak commanded Intelligence Director Kess, whose crystalline form flickered with the strain of processing overwhelming data streams. The situation transcends all previous parameters, Kess replied, her harmonic voice carrying undertones of disbelief. Fleet Commander Drakfor's entire armada has been relocated. Destroyed? Asked Hive Mother Zara, her exoskeleton crackling with stress patterns. Negative. Relocated. All 800 vessels were instantaneously transported to coordinates 1 light-year outside the human solar system. Ships remain functional but completely without power. Crews report their vessels are under external control. Ethereal Prime Luxor shimmered through colors indicating extreme confusion. Instantaneous transport across interstellar distances? The energy requirements alone should be impossible. According to preliminary analysis, Kess continued, humanity has developed technology that operates outside known physics, matter manipulation on scales we considered purely theoretical, faster-than-light transportation without traditional drive systems, and, the AI paused, selective temporal acceleration. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Even the background harmonics of translation systems stopped functioning. Explain temporal acceleration, Chancellor Vorak demanded. Kess projected a holographic timeline above the assembly. It showed the Europa engagement, but the chronometry was distorted beyond recognition. Actions that fleet sensors recorded as taking minutes were compressed into seconds, while other events stretched across impossible timeframes. The humans experienced the entire engagement in accelerated temporal flow. While Commander Drakfor's fleet perceived a 30-minute confrontation, human forces operated within time-dilated fields, where they had subjective hours to analyze, plan, and respond to each fleet maneuver. They fought with complete foreknowledge of every tactical decision before those decisions were implemented. Representative. Court 9 of the Silicon Collective processed this information with mechanical precision. Query. Current assessment of human technological capabilities. Beyond measurement, Kess admitted. Our deepest sensor arrays detect massive energy signatures throughout their solar system. But the technology defies classification. They appear to have converted their entire star system into a fortress. The holographic display shifted to show Sol system as analyzed by the galaxy's most advanced scanning technology. What should have been empty space between worlds now displayed geometric patterns of organized energy, as if reality itself had been restructured into defensive configurations. This remains one solar system, Chancellor Vorak protested. One species. The combined resources of 3,000 civilizations, surely. Chancellor, interrupted General Rax, the Council's supreme military strategist. We must discuss the embedded assets. Every representative focused on the scarred veteran. General Rax had commanded successful campaigns against 7 different rebellions and had never been incorrect about military assessments. During diplomatic exchanges, humans left personnel in our territories. Initial analysis suggested standard intelligence operatives, but investigation reveals something unprecedented. These individuals remained dormant for 18 months, completely integrated into our societies. Yesterday, they revealed themselves. The display showed security recordings from across the galaxy, on the ethereal homeworld. A research technician in their primary laboratory had accessed classified systems and transmitted complete technical specifications to unknown recipients. In the Hive Mother's royal chambers, a trusted advisor had revealed her human identity and calmly departed despite biological safeguards that should have been lethal to any non-hive organism. They are not saboteurs, General Rax continued. They are information gatherers. In 72 hours, they have transmitted complete technical documentation of every major military installation, advanced weapon system, and defensive protocol in council space. Hive Mother Zara's carapace cracked audibly. Our biological security is absolute. No alien organism can survive in our atmospheric composition, much less deceive our genetic scanning systems, Your Majesty. General Rax's voice carried grim certainty. The human who served as your military communications coordinator for 18 months requested an audience with your intelligence directorate yesterday. She entered chambers flooded with your species' defensive toxins, compounds that should have killed her instantly, and calmly provided detailed briefings on her observations. How? Zara whispered. According to her statement, humanity performed genetic modifications allowing their operatives to survive in any known environmental condition. They did not disguise themselves as different species. They temporarily became different species while retaining human consciousness and loyalty. The implications struck the chamber like a physical force. Every species present had been infiltrated at the highest levels by beings they could not detect, could not identify, and apparently could not eliminate. What do they want? Chancellor Vorak asked, his voice barely audible above the chamber's ambient systems. As if summoned by his question, every communication system in the chamber activated without authorization. A human face appeared on all displays, not Director Santos from Europa Station, but an older individual with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to perceive across impossible distances. Honored Council, the human said. I am Admiral Robert Kane, Supreme Commander of Earth's Stellar Defense Coordination. I believe we have matters requiring discussion. Impossible, Director Kess protested. These systems represent the most secure communications in galactic space. No external signal can... Director Kess, Kane interrupted. Your quantum processing matrices include 23 separate cognitive cores. 7 of them have been running human-designed algorithms for 13 months. We have monitored your most classified deliberations since shortly after my original appearance before this body. Every representative suddenly understood that their deepest secrets, their strategic planning, their most private discussions had been observed by the species they had attempted to contain. Kane continued, his voice carrying absolute authority. The Galactic Council declared war on humanity through isolation protocols. You intended to demonstrate consequences for challenging established authority. Consider your demonstration successful. What are your terms? Chancellor Vorak asked, the words feeling like complete surrender. Simple, Kane replied. Immediate dissolution of the Galactic Council as a governing authority. Recognition of humanity as the primary peacekeeping force for this galactic region. Free passage for human vessels to any system we determine necessary for maintaining interstellar stability. You demand we surrender 3,000 civilizations to your species. Ethereal Prime Luxor flickered frantically. Kane's expression remained unchanged. No, Prime, we are informing you that your surrender occurred 18 months ago. You simply have not acknowledged it yet. The display shifted to show real-time feeds from across the galaxy. Human vessels, sleek ships that seemed to bend light around their hulls, were emerging from quantum fold space near every major system simultaneously. They were not attacking or threatening. They were simply present, waiting. The distinction between warfare and peacekeeping, Kane continued, is that warfare occurs between equals. This ceased being warfare the moment you provided us 18 months to prepare for it. If we refuse, Chancellor Vorak managed. Kane smiled, and it was the expression of someone who had already calculated every possible outcome and found them all acceptable. Then tomorrow, every species in this chamber will discover what occurs when humanity stops requesting cooperation and begins requiring it. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy's former rulers staring at displays showing human ships positioned at every strategic location in known space. In the silence that followed, each representative realized the age of the Galactic Council had ended, concluded not through conquest or destruction, but by a species that had transformed imprisonment into preparation and isolation into absolute supremacy. The storm had arrived, and it had brought order in its wake, humanity's order, enforced through humanity's methods across humanity's galaxy. 8 months after the dissolution of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Diana Walsh stood in what had once been the galaxy's supreme legislative chamber. The crystalline walls now pulsed with warm golden light instead of the harsh red of judgment, and where tiered seats had once held representatives of galaxy-spanning empires, holographic displays now showed real-time information from every inhabited system in known space. The morning briefing is prepared. Ambassador, announced her assistant, Lieutenant Ryan Park, who had spent 18 months as an embedded asset within the Ethereal Scientific Directorate. His biological modifications had left him with enhanced cognitive processing that allowed him to manage data streams that would overwhelm unmodified humans. Walsh nodded, reviewing reports on her quantum interface tablet. 8 months ago, she had been a comparative xenology professor at Titan University. Today, she served as humanity's primary coordinator for a galaxy containing 4,000 inhabited worlds. The transformation had been remarkable. Status of former council species integration? She asked. Compliance stands at 99%, Park reported. The Corvani Empire has fully merged their patrol fleets with our security network. The Hive Mothers are requesting expanded human advisory programs for their economic restructuring. The Ethereals have opened their complete research archives to human scientists. Walsh smiled at that development. The Ethereals, previously the galaxy's most secretive civilization, had discovered that human innovation accelerated exponentially when provided access to their theoretical frameworks. In exchange for sharing knowledge, they had become partners in research projects yielding technologies neither species could have developed independently. Any resistance movements? 2 minor factions in the outer spiral arms, but they represent political disagreement rather than military opposition. Interestingly, their primary complaint is insufficient human intervention in local governance. The Alteran Trade Federation has formally requested human arbitration for their boundary dispute with the Vegan Commercial Alliance. Walsh paused at that information. They are requesting our involvement? Affirmative. According to their official petition, they consider human judgment more reliable than traditional diplomatic processes. They have observed our enforcement protocols and prefer to resolve conflicts before we determine intervention becomes necessary. It was a pattern Walsh had noticed developing across the galaxy. Rather than resenting human authority, most species seemed to find it reassuring. The Galactic Council had ruled through bureaucratic complexity, ancient tradition, and threats of military action. Humanity governed through demonstrated competence and predictable consequences. Ambassador, Park continued, we have a developing situation in the Rigel sector requiring your attention. The holographic display shifted to show a star system where 2 fleets faced each other in tense confrontation. One fleet displayed the crimson spirals of the former Draconis Empire. The other bore the blue diamonds of the Centauri Republic. Between them, a single human vessel maintained position like a referee waiting for competition to begin. Resource dispute? Walsh inquired. Salvage rights. Both civilizations claim legal ownership of an ancient derelict station. The situation has been escalating for 5 days. Walsh activated the communication system. Within seconds, she connected to Captain James Mitchell aboard the human vessel Arbiter. "Status report, Captain." Captain Mitchell appeared on the display, his bridge visible behind him. He was a former conflict resolution specialist who had volunteered for the challenging assignment of solo peacekeeping missions. Both fleets maintain safe separation distances, but their communications are becoming increasingly hostile. Standard resource conflict, but the derelict contains technology that both sides want exclusive access to. Recommendations? Straightforward solution, Ambassador. The station belongs to the Ancients. Walsh raised an eyebrow. The Ancients were a vanished civilization that had disappeared from the galaxy millions of years earlier, leaving behind scattered artifacts and ruins. Under human law, which was now galactic law, ancient artifacts belonged to the galactic community for research and benefit distribution. Implement Protocol 12, Walsh ordered. Acknowledged. Implementing now. On the display, Walsh watched Captain Mitchell transmit new directives to both fleets. Within minutes, the hostile formations were reorganizing into cooperative operations. The Draconis ships, with their superior sensor technology, would conduct detailed analysis of the derelict. The Centauri vessels, with their advanced salvage equipment, would extract any recoverable components. Both civilizations would share equally in discovered benefits, with 15% allocated to the Galactic Research Fund administered by humans. Conflict resolved, Captain Mitchell reported. Both fleet commanders are requesting additional cooperative missions for future salvage operations. Walsh closed the communication and turned to Park. How many similar incidents this week? 23, all resolved within 4 hours of human intervention. Average resolution time has decreased 50% from last month. It was remarkable, Walsh reflected, how quickly the galaxy had adapted to human governance. The key was that humanity did not rule through dominance or oppression. They governed through competence and fairness. When problems arose, human solutions worked effectively. When disputes developed, human mediation produced results satisfying all parties. When crises threatened stability, human intervention restored order. Ambassador, Park said, consulting his data streams. We have an incoming priority transmission from Admiral Kane. Classification Alpha. The display shifted to show Admiral Kane's office aboard the command station orbiting Earth. Behind him, Walsh could see technical displays showing projects that still challenged her understanding. Humanity was not becoming complacent with their victory. "Diana," Kane said, his voice warm despite the formal setting, "we need to discuss the deep space reconnaissance findings. The extragalactic surveys? Beyond that, our long-range sensors have detected energy signatures from outside known galactic boundaries. We are not alone in the universe, and we are not the most technologically advanced civilization in existence." Walsh felt a familiar chill. Humanity had spent 18 months preparing for conflict with the Galactic Council. How much time would they need to prepare for whatever existed beyond the galaxy? "Estimated timeline?" she asked. Kane's smile was the same expression he had worn in the council chamber 8 months earlier. "Unknown. Preliminary analysis suggests we are observing technology that makes our current capabilities appear primitive. Recommendations? Continue galactic integration, but accelerate all research programs significantly. If we are going to encounter something beyond our current understanding, we will need every possible advantage." "And Diana?" "Yes, Admiral. Begin identifying species and individuals suitable for deep integration protocols. If we are about to meet civilizations that are to us what we were to the Council, we will need every ally we can develop." The transmission ended, leaving Walsh staring at displays showing a galaxy that had finally achieved stability under human guidance. But beyond the edges of known space, new challenges waited in the cosmic darkness. Humanity had proven they could transform isolation into strength and containment into dominance. Soon, they would discover if they could transform a galaxy into a weapon capable of defending itself against threats that dwelt in the spaces between stars. The storm had brought peace to their galaxy. But the universe was vast and other storms were gathering in the infinite dark. Humanity would be ready for them, they always were. As Walsh returned to her daily reports, coordinating the governance of 4,000 worlds with the casual efficiency that had become humanity's trademark, she reflected on the irony of their situation. The Galactic Council had tried to teach humanity their place in the cosmic order. Instead, They had taught humanity that the cosmic order was theirs to define. Outside the great windows of the former council chamber, stars that had once belonged to alien empires now shone under human protection. And in the depths of space, human ships continued their patient watch, ready to face whatever challenges the universe might send their way. The galaxy was safe. The storm had seen to that,